Hey guys, welcome back to the Touch MBA podcast. I am your host, Darren. This week, I brought on Shelly Heinrich from Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business MBA program. And Shelly has been with Georgetown for 9 years in a variety of capacities. And she also has her EMBA from Georgetown. So she's the perfect person to bring on the show to talk about what makes Georgetown unique. What is its special culture? And what I really love about this interview is that Shelly just gives some very tactical, straightforward tips for how you can improve your application. She directly answers all my questions, which I absolutely love. And so I really enjoyed this chat with her, and I think you will too. Remember that you guys can get free school selection help at touchmba.com. We rate your competitiveness at your target schools. We give you best fit school recommendations, and you have the opportunity to share your profile with top ranked business schools all around the world before you apply to get an early assessment. We also rank you on a 15-point scale to give you a better idea of where you might be able to improve your profile. So you can find all of that at touchmba.com. Let's get straight to my talk with Shelly. Here we go. So I'm thrilled to have our next guest on the show. She is the Associate Dean of MBA Admissions and the Director of Marketing at Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. She's also a Georgetown MBA, EMBA as well. So it's my pleasure to welcome Shelly Heinrich to the Touch MBA podcast. Welcome, Shelly. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, always excited to be on and look forward to sharing just more thoughts about Georgetown and our MBA today. Thanks, Darren.
Yeah. So Shelly, could you first let our listeners know what your main responsibilities are at McDonough?
Definitely. So I've been at Georgetown for 9 years and Associate Dean for almost 6. And I lead the admissions team in both the marketing and operational strategy for our suite of MBA programs. We'll focus today on the full-time MBA program, but in that I developed the integrated marketing strategy for the team, manage a strong team, and everything from the time a person submits an interest inquiry all the way through when they enroll and start here at orientation. And I've had the opportunity to work at 4 business schools, but have really found a home here at Georgetown.
Yeah. So I'll just mention those programs at the very start. There's the full-time MBA, Flex MBA online, and I believe a Master's in Science in Environment and Sustainability Management.
Correct. Yes.
Just to sort of set the stage, but we're going to focus on the full-time MBA in this discussion. Thank you for sharing that. So Shelly, I like to get straight to the point because, our listeners come to Touch MBA to try to find best fit business schools. So of course, my first question is, what makes the Georgetown MBA unique from all the other top-ranked, wonderful business schools?
Yeah, I love talking about this because I truly believe in the experience that we provide for students. I wouldn't have been here for 9 years if I didn't. But I would say there's 4 things to really focus on. One is our focus on global. So, and what do I mean by this? First of all of our students start and end their program with a global experience. In opening term in August, we have what's called Structure of Global Industries. And this is an intense 3-week course where students are put into teams and they're solving a mock problem that allows them to learn the tip of the iceberg of all different areas of business and then have to solve this real world mock problem. And then they present in front of judges on the last day of class, and it's a kind of a competition amongst their peers. So right away, they jump into the deep end, but it's in a very safe environment because they're not with a real company. Fast forward to the end of the program, we actually have them and require them to consult for an international client. So we send students, this is a signature of all our programs at McDonough, we send students to act as consultants for an international company. If you're a full-time student, you'll get to choose between about 40 projects divided over 6 countries. We go to every major continent. Students rank their first, second, and third choice, and then they're working with this client for 6 to 8 weeks. So it's a very tangible global experiences. A third of our faculty host or hold international passports. We have over 40 countries represented in the program, so very globally diverse. So that's one. Second is our location in Washington, D.C. I'm not from D.C., but I am a transplant here, and it has the largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies in the world here in D.C. Every company, at least U.S.-based company or multinational, has an office here. So your ability to network is local. You can go network with the tech companies, NGOs, for-profits, banks, all of that. DC also allows people to have a strong contingent of alumni that are either located here or who are constantly in and out of DC on work travel. And so you can get your networking done on a low-cost shoestring budget because people are here. In addition, I would say third is our focus on cura personalis, which is care of the whole person and comes from our Jesuit foundation. So we really do look at care of the whole person, education of the whole person. So you're not just going to be able to make a great balance sheet or integrated marketing plan. You're going to learn how to lead and take care of people and recognize that it's more than just academics. And I can always talk more about that later. But then fourth, I would say, is our ability to leverage the entire Georgetown University. So students can take up to 12 credit hours at other Georgetown highly ranked schools, the School of Foreign Service, Public Policy, Law School, Medical School. So you get to leverage the entire Georgetown community just by being at the business school. So very quickly, those are four things that set us apart. I'm happy to go into more detail about any of those.
No, I love this answer because it's a lot of things I haven't heard on the show. So let me just first, with that 12 credit hours that you could take at other schools, how many classes does that translate to?
Usually 4 classes if they're 3 credit classes. So most electives are 3 credits. Some schools will offer 1.5 credit electives, but in general, you can say 4.
Got it. And I'm actually very interested. It was one of my questions on point 3, the care of the whole person, and kind of actually the heritage and like how the MBA program was born, and maybe as well with Georgetown University, because I know both your essays also deal with similar subjects, right? Mm-hmm. Principled leadership, for example. So I'm wondering, please just fill us in more about like why this is such a focus for the business school and Georgetown.
Yeah. So the way we think of it is that if you're leading an organization, leading a company, you would be missing part of your leadership ability if you didn't take care of people as a priority. Your people are what make your bottom line thrive. So you have to embrace and be willing to take care of the whole person. And for every company, this will be different. It could be related to your policies around work-life balance and family. It could be around diversity, equity, inclusion. It could be around your, frankly, work from home remote policy. Whatever it is, you have to think about those things because that's what will retain your staff. That's what will make them happy, motivated, and want to stay with your company. So that is the care of the whole person. And it is a Jesuit philosophy, cura personalis. And we truly live, and breathe it. So I didn't know what Jesuit teaching or Jesuit education was before I came to Georgetown. I had no idea. I'm not Catholic, I'm Protestant, but I didn't learn what Jesuit meant until I came to work here. And then I realized, wow, people of all faiths in the school really embrace this idea of care of the whole person. To the extent, fast forward, over the 9 years that I've been here, we now have a initiative called Operation Cura Personalis, where throughout the year, we bring in learning opportunities and engagement opportunities for students to learn and experience things about, for example, we brought in like a sleep specialist to talk about how sleep in and of itself actually can make you a more effective person. Like it has physiological effects. We've brought in people to talk about failure and how do you deal with failure and still succeed, or talked about meditation in the workplace. There is even time set aside to go and learn how to meditate. These are all optional, of course, but we want to provide these tools in a toolkit that allow leaders to learn them themselves, But more importantly, when they go and lead massive organizations, they might recall, okay, I learned about these things in business school. How can I apply them to my team moving forward? So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
with the point number one, Georgetown MBA being a very global program. I mean, I know, for example, in US News, you guys are ranked number 3 for that specialization in terms of reputation wise, right? Of the school. Was that always part of the business school? And like, why do you guys have that reputation?
Yeah, I think part of it is due to our location in Washington, D.C. I mean, there's 175 embassies here, the World Bank, massive international NGOs. I mean, the city in and of itself is a global city with people in very, very high profile positions that come and work here. And so it would kind of make sense that it has developed into that. You know, I think we also have, like, for example, the Walsh School of Foreign Service is very well known for being global. Georgetown has just always had this thread in its heritage of being global. So when the business school was founded, it would also make sense that it would be global. And I can tell you, having done the MBA here at Georgetown, you can't talk about business without examining case studies of, multinational companies. You can't, ignore international trade policy. You can't, ignore import export strategies. I mean, it's just a part of any company that you're going to launch. And so, and it's great to have 40 countries represented in the program
Yeah.
in in a small class size, 250 people. It's very diverse. It's exciting.
Yeah. And you guys make it a point to recruit that diverse class as well, right?
Yeah.
So, and also academically, where do you think the program really stands out?
Yeah. So I remember when I first came to Georgetown and I was learning kind of where are we strong? I would ask, what's the focus area of electives where we're strong? And the school has made it a real point to be strong in the core. So not to have one area outshine the other, but so that a student can come here and get strong tenured faculty and strong high profile faculty in the core of business areas. So marketing, operations, finance, definitely accounting, technology, strategy and management. So a tight core, and then the other half being electives, where you have over 100 electives to choose from. And we don't we don't require you to declare a concentration. So you can pick and choose your electives in whatever areas that you see fit. And what I advise students is think of those skill gaps that you have. And how do you want to fill those gaps with the classes? Because in any job that you do today, you're not just wearing one hat. Even if you're a finance person, you're likely going to be pulled into strategy discussions, or if you're a strategy person, you might be pulled into technology discussions. So you need to be comfortably fluent in languages that are outside of your comfort zone. So that's why I love that you don't have to declare a concentration. Now, we have started implementing certificates for people that want to gain a little bit of a different edge in a very unique area where we do have very strong professors as well. So we have a certificate in real estate, a certificate in sustainability, a certificate in consumer analytics, and a certificate in non-market strategy. And so those are very niche topics that maybe are unique for a business school, but are a way for a student to stand out as well.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down in my notes, like these unique certificates. And so to get those, like roughly how many classes, or is there like a special process to get those certificates?
Yeah, so you can come in the fall semester. The fall semester, you get to understand what we offer. You get to go to some information sessions on certificates, see if that's something you want to do. And then if you do, you would start to apply for that certificate in the spring semester. Every certificate is a little different, but you can complete a certificate and still have room to take electives outside of that certificate. So it doesn't take up your entire elective allowance. And then there's typically co-curricular opportunities. So speakers or activities or initiatives or projects that you would have to work on in addition to the electives. Mm-hmm.
Got it. No, that's crystal clear. Is there anything else about the curriculum? I mean, because you've been so heavily involved, right, at Georgetown, that you kind of just wish more candidates knew about, or maybe it's like a favorite class or a favorite part of the first year or second year, just trying to find, something that maybe fewer candidates know about.
I think very unique is our opening term, which is a term that's only in August. So our regular fall semester starts in, let's say September. It's typically the last week of August, but it really starts in September. So for 3 weeks in August, I mentioned one of the two courses that students take, and that is Structure of Global Industries. But the other course that people take in that opening term is called Leading Teams for Performance and Impact, LTPI. And it's a week-long course that's co-taught by a bunch of different faculty. And people talk about everything related to leadership, giving and receiving feedback, managing your peers, implicit bias, diversity, inclusion, and then leadership skills, soft leadership skills. We do that at the very beginning of the program because we want it to kind of set the stage for people's experience, because a lot of the MBA experience is working in teams and groups, and we want people to have those skills to effectively do that through their 2 years. So that opening term is very unique and different. They're credit classes, they're academic credit classes. They're intense. I tell people, don't plan anything for those 3 weeks. You're literally going to be here from, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for 3 weeks, because you're going to be doing the classes, and after classes, you're going to be working with your team on the deliverables. But the second order effect of this is there's a lot of bonding. You really bond with your classmates because you are here in this very intense academic period. You're drinking coffee late at night, stressed but excited, and all these things. And so you walk out of opening term having these great bonds with a group. And oftentimes when you ask people what was one of their favorite experiences in the program, they'll say opening term. So yeah. The other thing I would mention academically is what we call ILEs, intensive learning experiences. So these are electives, and they happen at key points during the program. So they are, for the full-time students, they would be 1 week long. An entire elective gets knocked out in 1 week. You go Monday through Friday, not, kind of like 8 to 5, but then you get an elective done. They happen in January before the normal semester starts, right around spring break when there's a break for classes, and then in the summer. And they're also offered to our part-time students as well in the evening. But they're on very niche topics. So it could be the business of water, or startup factory, or mobile apps, or national security. So they're very interesting topics that our faculty have some type of interesting expertise on, and students absolutely love them. And so it's kind of this undersold part of our curriculum. Yep.
And as an MBA working in Washington, D.C., you're a transplant, right? You're not from the area.
Nope.
Can you just help paint a picture for my listeners about what life is like there as a student, and then potentially as a fresh graduate? Because I'm assuming a pretty decent number of your grads end up staying in DC to work.
So yes, I'm from Texas, love Texas, was there for undergrad and grad school, but relocated here in 2007. So I don't know how many years ago that was. It's been a long time. I think what's different about DC is it's a big city with a small town feel. It has obviously influential people in and out of here all the time. There's a very young, it's a young city, meaning there's a lot of young professionals that come here with ambitions to change the world. So you have a very energized, motivated population, transient population that's in and out of here. It's a great great quality of life. I mean, hiking, skiing very close, the beach isn't too far, rowing, paddling, biking, great. It's a great city, climate, culture, all of that. But it's also gives you access to not only the largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies, as I mentioned, but we have alumni in and out of here all the time. So to answer that question that you asked, our alumni are actually more concentrated in the Northeast corridor, so Boston to DC. So really, I would say, New York has probably the largest concentration of our alum. So Boston, New York, DC, but then on the West Coast, San Francisco, Seattle. So it's kind of like Silicon Valley, Seattle. And then after that, I would say Chicago. So really the major cities, right? Because our students go to work for the Fortune 100, 500 companies, and they go to their headquarters often. And so they're working where the companies are. Now, certainly the people that have done our Flex MBA and Executive MBA, there's obviously a lot of alum in the DC area because they were here to begin with. They did the program, but our full-time MBA are all over the world. And then we have huge international student population that eventually may make their way back to their home country as well. So I'll close by saying, if you're doing a professional business degree, you want to be in a large city. There are a lot, in my opinion, there are a lot of great universities that are in very lovely, relaxing places in the U.S. and in the world where they're beautiful, they're relaxing, but your goal is to get a job. Your goal is to network. Your goal is to be around opportunities and companies. And so you need to be in a large city. That is going to be the best opportunity for your ROI. Additionally, if you're not in a large city, you're going to need to build into your budget travel money to get to those large cities. So if you want to go to networking sessions, like, are you having to train? Are you flying? Are you taking hotels? Are you trying to sleep on people's couches? Like, that will be a part of your cost of education that is you're not going to realize till you get into the program and you're like, oh my goodness, I have to pay for all this to get to these cities. So to interview, et cetera. So that's some benefits of being in DC.
Yeah. And the campus is located close to the CBD of Washington, DC, or is it all very, very close together?
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. So Georgetown University is on an enclosed campus, but in 2 blocks from M Street in Georgetown, in the west part of DC. So you kind of have the feeling of being on a very green campus that I'm looking out on right now with hills and everything like that. But you step outside the gates a couple of blocks and you're a 10-minute drive to the Capitol or the White House. So
wow, that's great. So Shelly, if we can switch gears now and talk about admissions.
Yep.
What are the fit qualities you're looking for from MBA applicants?
Yeah, obviously, the ability to complete the academic rigor of the class. So, these are top tier faculty that are teaching. It is a rigorous program. You're going to get a lot out of it. I mean, speaking from someone who learned from these faculty, like, you're going to be stretched, you're going to learn. As a quick example, I remember in my finance class, sitting in a group, learning how to calculate the stock value of Starbucks. So I didn't realize, I thought it was the stock ticker, there's some, the stock prices go up and down. And obviously there's a calculation to get there. We actually learned it as, like a 10 or 11 step process to get to the stock value of a company. And I was like, this is fascinating. I'm not a finance person, but now I understand that in a more conversational way than I did. So yes, you're going to be stretched, you're going to learn. So academic rigor is one part of it. Georgetown, our students are expected to, or they just naturally gravitate to, being very involved in the experience. So we have over 40 clubs, and there's 350 board positions in those 40 clubs. I would define a board position as the president of the club, the vice president of alumni, or vice president of social, or so all these board positions. So if you have 250 students in the full-time class and 340 board positions, most students have a board position or 2. So what that means is they are setting themselves apart from other MBA peers at other institutions because they have a real probability of getting a leadership position, and that sets them apart on their resume. So students that are willing to be a part of the experience, be it clubs, or we have case competitions, or we go on international treks, or they're here to roll up their sleeves and they know that they are using this to leverage increasing their competitiveness and learning ability. And then the third is, this mentality of giving back. So we have a Hoyas helping Hoyas mentality. Our alumni give back by hiring our students. Our students help each other. It's not a divisive, cutthroat community. It's a community where it's like, hey, maybe I'm a CFA or CPA, so let me go tutor my peers in those areas that maybe never took an accounting class before. Just a great culture, a spirit of community as well. So people that I interview this, and I'll provide this example. I interviewed this one person one time. I happened to be interviewing her. She was in New York. Fantastic resume, fantastic credentials. And I remember she asked me, she said, I've heard that Georgetown has a collaborative community. And I said, yes. And she said, I'm really looking, she said, I really thrive on, and I quote, like, cutthroat competition. That's what she said. She said, it really drives me. And, it's interesting because she was so qualified on paper and she had a great interview. We didn't end up admitting her, but in the back of my mind, I said, I don't think she's going to come. And she didn't. And in some ways, I thought, she wasn't a good fit, and she wouldn't have been a good fit for our, she could have been, but I don't think that's what she was looking for. So we're not, it's not cutthroat. People aren't ripping pages out of your textbooks or trying to like steal your case studies. It's just not like that. That's not who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, like, because, two of those three things you highlighted, right? Being very involved and engaged in the experience and having this attitude or mindset to give back. Like, do you expect that to come through in the application? Like a plan in terms of how they expect to be engaged and how they expect to give back?
I think I can tell if students want to be engaged. One, if they were engaged previously, maybe it was in their undergraduate experience they got involved, or maybe it was in their company. There's some type of ways to get involved in your company, like leading committees, or they were involved in volunteering. So they've shown a level before of wanting to get involved in their communities, whatever that may be. I can also typically tell, like, if students have done their research enough on Georgetown. So when I say, why do you want to come to Georgetown? What I love to hear, and a great answer is, well, I've spoken with a few of your students, or I spoke with one of your alum, or I was able to attend that class visit. Like, they already have kind of gotten involved in learning about the community. And that helps them as well, because it shows them, is this a good fit for you? Students have to make their own decisions. So yes, I can tell that a little bit from their applications. And students that oftentimes in their interviews may use the word I multiple times, like, I did this, this was me, I, me, versus like, this was our team, or we did, there's a delicate balance of how you show up in that way as well.
Yeah. So what I'm taking from your answer is like kind of this idea, the best predictor of future performance might be past performance, or
I think so.
Yeah, generally, right? If exactly. So, and when you're going through your thousands of applications, right? Like, what really makes an applicant jump off the page and get you, like, piques your interest to meet them?
I can tell when someone's gone the extra 10% to make their application just that much more polished. So what do I mean by that? I've seen resumes where there's more white space than there is words. I mean, there where I don't see people didn't put their accomplishments on for their employers. They just simply listed responsibilities. They didn't put accomplishments, or they didn't take time to think through like detailing their experiences in their companies or undergrad. So basically the resume is just kind of generic. That's the easiest thing to control, because there's so many resources out there on how to craft an excellent resume. You don't have to pay necessarily to learn about them. I mean, you can just go online and research. You can have peers look at it. So the other is the essay. Students should embrace this concept of storytelling. And storytelling is powerful because it's only unique to you. A story that you tell cannot be retold by someone else. And when I say storytelling, it's basically providing a personal example that is only yours. So when you're answering an essay question, don't just use generic words. Pull out an example from your employment or from a volunteer experience or leadership or a life experience that the person sitting next to you couldn't say as well. Because that draws you in, that draws the reader in to learn more about you. And then I would say also, if you are accepted to interview with Georgetown or at any school, show a level of interest. I get excited when others get excited. If I can tell that the candidate has done a lot of research about the program, then that excites me. And I would say this is especially for international students. I think the US culture kind of is very much aware of this. I need to go to events, I need to research, I need to go on the website. In some international cultures, that is less common. And so if you are an international student, yes, please make sure that you're reading blogs, listening to podcasts, going to virtual webinars. If the school's coming to your country, meet them there. Show that you've done a level of effort of research, because that will go a long way.
Wow, I really love those tips. Yeah, especially the storytelling one. I mean, in terms of the resume, it sounds like to me, and I'm paraphrasing you, but that you kind of want the candidates to help you guys connect the dots a little bit. Like, don't just detail your experiences in undergrad. Show what you accomplished at work, right? Like, help your team and yourself kind of put the puzzle together.
Yep.
Hard work sometimes.
It is hard work, but then you're fast forward just that much further ahead to what the Career Center is going to make you do, which is craft your MBA resume for employment. So put in the time now while you're less busy, because once you get into your MBA program, you're going to be more busy.
You guys had a really interesting policy with your standardized testing requirements, and I wanted to ask you about that. So you accept the GMAT, GRE, executive assessment, and there's a potential test waiver for some applicants. So could you kind of walk me through your thinking behind that, and if there's any misunderstandings you often run into here?
Yeah, we were kind of a late mover to this. A lot of other top schools implemented test waivers earlier than we did. We took a step back and said, why are we asking for the test? Yes, we've been doing it for years and years, decades, but we said, why? And the answer is we need to be able to make sure through the application process, the applicants are going to be academically prepared to complete the quantitative rigors of the classroom. Now, there are multiple ways to assess this. There is your undergraduate transcript and any quantitative classes that you may have taken in undergrad. There is the standardized test. There is any professional certifications like a CFA, CPA you might have gotten. And then there's your work responsibilities. Some people doing quantitative analysis work in a very rigorous fashion on a daily basis. Not many professions do that, but there are some. So those are the menu of ways that we can learn. If we are going to remove the standardized test, we have to then have evidence in those other 3 ways that you can complete the rigors of stats, finance, accounting, etc. So we crafted a test waiver strategy that we felt, okay, if we remove the standardized test and you meet these other criteria, then we can be convinced that you're going to do well in the standardized or in the quantitative portion of the classroom. So that's how we crafted the strategy. Now, I know there's some other schools that just kind of did like a carte blanche test waiver. Ours has a little bit more criteria, but we feel that by admitting people with a test waiver into those criteria, they're going to be set up for success. What we don't want to do is set up people for not success, and then they don't complete and or fail out of these classes when they've put their jobs, they're investing in all this money in an MBA. So yeah, I think we will be keeping that for this year. We've admitted some really great candidates with strong abilities without the test, but then for others, there's definitely other candidates where they didn't get a great GPA, or they got not great grades in their quant classes, or they never had to take quant classes in undergrad. And so for them, it's helpful to take a standardized test. And now with there's a new GMAT Focus Edition, there's now a new GRE test coming out. So I think people who have been maybe scared by standardized tests before should really relook at the new formats and realize, hey, this is doable. This is achievable with, with some study time and preparation. It's not as scary as it may sound for those who it's a good fit for.
Yeah. I mean, can I ask, how has that gone so far for you guys? Like, have you seen like strong academic performance from those candidates who didn't submit a standardized test?
Yeah, well, so I will say that we just implemented the test waiver policy in September of this last year. So the first class where there will be test waivers really coming in will be this next fall. But those people, and I would say most people are still taking a standardized test. The reality is there, is not that many people in our class of 250 that came in with a waiver. But those that came in with a waiver, I mean, they had fantastic GPAs in STEM classes, or they had fantastic credentials or qualifications. So they're not less qualified. They just offset the test with more qualifications in another area. So
yeah. I mean, can candidates ask you about this like before they apply, or do they have to kind of just like
so all
path?
the criteria is on our website.
Okay.
With the full-time program, this past year with the full-time program, you had to apply first for a waiver, and then we would say yes or no, you will or will not get a waiver, and then they could apply for the program. The reason we did that is we didn't want to waste anyone's time.
Exactly, right?
The application process is it's long. I mean, it's a long process. And if you're going to go through the whole process and then like not get a waiver, that's a waste of everyone's time. So we did that, and we'll see how we're going to handle it going forward. We haven't decided for next fall. So.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for just being so transparent about that. I just find it super interesting because obviously the GMAT and now the GRE have been kind of staples of the application process. So I'm always just curious to see who's trying different things, how it's working out. And it's exciting. I think it's always great to see experiments or trials or however you would describe it.
Yep.
So can I ask you about your interview? Just what happens during the interview? Who conducts the interview?
Yeah. So interview is by invitation only. So we have to read your file first. Those candidates that we like, we invite to interview. The interview can be conducted virtually and/or we have on-campus options. We do travel to some cities for interviews. They're 20 to 25 minutes, and then we leave about 5 minutes for question and answer. They could be conducted by a member of the admissions team, a student, one of our student interviewers and or alumni interviewers. We have both. And they're to get to know you better. The questions may be varied a little bit because we like them to be organic conversations, but everyone should be able to answer, why an MBA, why Georgetown, and what do you hope to do short and long term? I mean, those are kind of no-brainer questions that you should be prepared to answer. So yeah, they're great. We love getting to know people outside of what's on paper.
Yeah. So there's no sort of like case study questions or none of that.
No, we want to just get to know the person.
Yeah. I mean, would you have any advice there? Like having done probably so many interviews for candidates to relax, or maybe not relax, but show really present themselves authentically and convincingly?
Yep. Yes. So I can tell if someone has prepared for an interview. You should think of answering every question using the STAR format. There's also a PAR format, but you can Google these, but STAR, situation, task, action, result. So if someone asks you a question, like describe a leadership experience you've had in your job or something. Describe briefly the situation, what the task was you were asked to do, what then the action was that you took, and then the result. So it keeps the answer organized, because if not, your answer can wander and like the listener is trying to follow the bouncing ball and then can get lost, and it can get messy. So make sure your answers are organized in your response. Think through how you're going to answer a question before you even get to the interview. I mean, when I prepare for interviews, I I read my resume. I think through what are those key experiences in my professional life that I want to make sure I highlight. And then I prepare on how I'm going to answer it. So that make sure you've done your research about the school. When I get generic answers about Georgetown, it's not a good thing for your interview. So don't just open the website the morning of your interview. Like, make sure you've spoken with at least a student or alum or staff member prior. Yep.
Yeah, those are great tips. Great tips. Anything else? Any other things, ways applicants can improve their chances?
Yep. I always call it like close the deal. So at the end of the interview, reiterate your interest. Like, stick your hand out, shake their hand, have good eye contact, and say, thank you so much. I'm really interested. Georgetown is my number one choice. I'm really interested in coming here. So I really appreciate this opportunity. Like, whatever it is, like, you take the ownership to close the deal. If you're virtual, the same thing. Just take a moment, say thank you so much, look them in the eye virtually, smile, and reiterate that interest. It's a lasting impact.
Great tip. And how do you guys view scholarships? And of course, my follow-up question.
Yeah.
How can our listeners improve their chances there as well, assuming they can get in?
Yeah. So we have a scholarship budget. It starts full at the beginning of the year, and by the time we get to now, it's been almost depleted. So you have a greater probability of getting more money with the same profile in round 1 or round 2. So if you apply in round 3, you may still get offered money, but it is going to be likely less. It will be less than the amount you would have received in round 1 and round 2. So know that your interest and ability for us to yield you plays into it. If we think, if we see that you've applied to 8 schools, I don't know, like, are you really so think thoughtfully about where you apply, do it intentionally because it shows the school level of interest. But also I would flip it to say, think through how you're going to finance an MBA before you go through the entire process, get an admission, and then say, I actually need a full scholarship to attend, right? Like, so think through this. I mean, we want this all to end successfully for you and us, but very rarely do schools provide significant numbers of full scholarships. We all have them, we all give them out, but they're limited. And so think through what that means, and also think through the type of schools that you apply to, right? Like, so there's going to be your stretch schools where you may get in, but you may get no money. And then there's going to be maybe the schools where your profile lines up and you'll get a good amount of money. And so what is the ROI worth to you? Because if you go to a top tier program, you're likely going to be afforded the same opportunities no matter which program you go to. So think about what your ROI is in your degree.
Does like a higher GMAT score help, or higher academics, higher GPA, or professional experience, or like those things we talked about earlier, engagement with community, giving back to the community? Like, I'm just curious, those factors, how do they play into scholarships?
Yeah, I mean, scholarships are used to attract a competitive and diverse class. So the more competitive you are on paper, that could mean different things, right? That could mean your GPA is super competitive, or maybe your standardized test is super competitive, or maybe you've worked for phenomenal companies and that's competitive, or maybe you have all 3 that are also all phenomenal, and then that makes you even more competitive. Like, maybe you have an experience in your life that makes you very unique, that's also really interesting and competitive. So there's it's a very holistic process. It actually is a very time-consuming process on our end, because it is not it's not a like input output decision. We go through every single application, and
But I love that. It's basically show your competitiveness. I can't say that word at this hour, but and also just how much what would make you really stand out? What makes you more competitive? Simple as that. I like
exactly.
that. So we have a few minutes left, and I'd love to talk about careers. I saw a really powerful stat in your employment report that 88% of jobs were somehow facilitated by the school. That's super impressive.
Yeah.
I'm just also wondering, like, what you find special about the full-time MBA careers team or offering or program, right? From a careers perspective.
Definitely. I think when you come to a school with a class size of like 250 with the team the size that we have on the Career Center, you're going to get more individualized experience. Like these Career Center team members, they know you, they know what you're interested in. They do personalized connections with alum. Like it's different if you're going to a program with like 800 or 900 people. I mean, you just can't have that personalized attention. It's just not going to be feasible. But in a 250 class size where people know your name, you will. So we have 14 industry practice leaders. These are people that have come from industry. So our person that leads the technology group, he's worked in technology before. The person who leads consulting was working in a top consulting firm, like so on and so forth. So they are not career counselors. They're people that have worked in industry and so know how to get you those jobs in those industries. We also have an entire army of second years. We call them peer career advisors that help coach first years on the internship. Like they just got out of the internship. Now they're coaching you on like how to be successful in the internship, how to get the job in the internship. So we have that. And then we actually start prepping our students. Actually, we've already started prepping our students for the fall. So anyone coming in this fall has already gone through summer webinars in June. They will meet with career coaches in small group sessions in July to talk about strategies for prepping. They'll have a complete resume and accomplishments record edited, reviewed, and approved before they even get to campus in the end of July. So we take a lot of time to prep you so that once employers come on campus after Labor Day, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, having gone through the MBA yourself too, like what would you advise applicants in terms of how they could really hit the ground running and like set themselves up for success on that career side? For like, is it that internship, that first internship? Is it what do you think those success factors are?
Yeah, going to the initiatives, webinars, series, coaching programs that we provide. It's a recipe for success. Meaning, every Friday in the fall is a career day, divided into different industries: consulting day, finance day, technology day. You don't have to go to all of them, but go to the ones that are of interest to you. We have employers coming on campus. It's a deep dive into those industries. You get to see what's out there. And then there's all different sessions on negotiating your salary offer or going and prepping your interview skills with coaches. I mean, our coaches do, I think, over like 5,000 appointments a year with students.
Wow.
Which is incredible. And so do what we offer. I think that the only students that are not successful, literally, are the ones that come knocking on the Career Center door in April. And they say, this is my first time interacting with the Career Center, and I don't have my internship yet or my job yet. To which we then respond, well, where have you been for the last 9 months? We've been here. So, but people that follow what's prescribed for them, that's why we have 100%, acceptance rate for internships. Over, always in the mid 90s for, I think we had 96% this year that have received an offer within 3 months of graduation. So, I mean, really strong stats. Yep.
And speaking of the stats, I was just looking at your last employment report, and I'm wondering if those sort of stats function, for example, a lot of graduates going into consulting.
Yep.
And finance and accounting, and the top industries are consulting, financial services, technology. Do you expect that to kind of stay the same, or are you seeing any changes?
Yeah, I think that's
the big smile.
I think consulting, finance, technology. I mean, that's where those are the massive recruiting buckets. Now, Georgetown also is very unique because we have lots of also little slivers of the pie they're also different. So you might see consulting, finance, and technology in larger percentages of other schools, but we also have, in addition to that, like real estate, social impact, healthcare, consumer product goods. So people don't have to feel pressured into going to those top three, but those are attractive paths for MBA students.
This has been a great talk, Shelly. I really just appreciate how frank you are answering all these questions. It's really refreshing. But I just want to, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. But I just want to give you one last opportunity to share something about the program that you just wish more candidates knew about.
Yeah. Well, and I'll answer it by responding to what you just said. I think I've been here for 9 years. Because I loved working here so much, I went and got an MBA here. I don't script my answers because I believe in what I'm saying. What I'm saying is true. I feel convicted that this is a phenomenal program, that our dean has us on the right trajectory. We're launching new programs all the time. We're thinking more innovatively. So this is coming to Georgetown, you will have a great experience with an entire army of staff and faculty and leadership that are here to take you on that. And I truly believe that. And so anyone that is interested in learning more, please reach out to us. We're happy to chat with you. But yes, I think Georgetown will be a great program that will set you up for accomplishing your career goals and building the legacy that you're looking in your life.
Thank you so much, Shelly.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Remember, you can get free school selection help and a profile review at touchmba.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Just search for Touch MBA.